I have another one, and this is actually relative, and I know the moment's kind of passed, but I do think it's important. So everyone just listening.
The Alicia Keys Usher drama highlights why many young men do not have a partner and probably won't have a partner during their lifetime. Many of you guys have probably seen this picture circulating around the internet, or you probably watched it during the Super Bowl halftime show. If you're a man, you probably believe that Alicia Keys was super wrong, out of pocket. If you're a woman, you probably think that Usher and Alicia Keys were just performers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with performing when you are paid to perform. That seemingly small disagreement is part of a larger trend where men in the United States and around the world are moving more to the right while women are moving more to the left. So what does that have to do with anything? Right-wing ideology views relationships and marriage as a man having dominion over his wife. Therefore, when a woman becomes married, she cannot do the things that she would have done as a single woman, right? Alicia Keys and Usher have been performing like this for decades. However, men are throwing a fit about it now because she is married, i.e., she has someone that has dominion over her and her body. Whereas right-wing ideology and many men in general view partnership as dominion, a lot of women and left-wing ideologists view partnership as a companionship. They view it as, okay, Alicia Keys is a performer, she's a baddie, she's always been a baddie. The job of her companion is to support her in her baddieship. Women are now saying that if being partnered means you having dominion over me, I would rather be a baddie and not be partnered. Meanwhile,
Whoa.
men
So
Yeah. I think it comes down to what we were talking about, or at least that I was referring to society putting those things on you. And Common's response was just.
What was Common's response?
His response was just.
Swiss speech, you mean?
I was thinking
Wrong light skin guy.
I know.
His response was, "You're focusing on the wrong thing. Did you see her dress? Did you see that amazing performance?
Yeah.
Well done. Great, two legends making magic." So,
that's a secure.
That
dude.
was a secure response. However, I think it is the chit chat on the internet around that's disrespectful. It was the same with Keke Palmer. There was a great divide.
Look what it did to her, man.
It unraveled
him so much because he's so insecure.
Yeah, but
what? Imagine that you've got Kiki, you've just had a child with her. You should be protecting that relationship. Let her go and have fun.
No, he's insecure and financially insecure as well.
Yeah, so there's
wasn't he also
much.
abusive?
He was very abusive.
Yeah.
There was video footage of him being abusive. So I think it's interesting because I think those things unravel inauthenticity. And I think whenever you hold up too much of a light to a situation, those things have to come out. But then does that then mean that, like, I've lost my question.
But I do understand what she's saying, like, in terms of that dominion over a woman. And it's why the Andrew Tates and people like that, they thrive right now, because this pushback against feminism, and it comes to the share that you had about whether feminism is too close to the sun. There just seems to be this war happening between men and women at the moment, and I don't get it. Like, and it's probably because I'm not on the internet, I don't feel affected by it. But every time, like, I put my head above the parapet, it seems like there's a war going on between the genders, and I'm like, this is all nonsense. Something feels like it's designed to keep us apart, and whatever's happening is driving men, as she said, to the right and women to the left. Like, nobody should be dictating what sort of relationship you have, because you have to live with that relationship day in, day out. Nobody should be putting their mind on it. They're not living within your relationship. You and your partner should be defining your relationship by yourselves. So glad for Swiss Beats reaction. Like, it's so on point. That's how
he also didn't actually address
yeah
the commentary of what was going on. He just said that the focal point is
wrong. Yeah, which is true. Like,
but like
when I saw Alicia's dress, I thought, oh, Swiss is enjoying life. Like, she is. Like,
but I think what you're saying is it doesn't mean that he is not bothered. He just didn't address it.
I think but I think it's more just like you have to explain the guiding thoughts that say that you shouldn't be bothered because they're performers, and I think because he didn't address that, nobody changed their opinion based on that. It was just like, if you felt that way already, you just had an additional point to make. Well, his husband doesn't care. But anyone that thought that was offensive didn't learn anything from the dialogue of what he created. The actual question that I wanted to ask is, I was going to throw it to Kimberly actually first, but do you have an adjustment of like respectability politics that you engaging when you enter a relationship? Is there a little echo that says,
Oh, absolutely.
well, I'm with a man, so I shouldn't do this, and you just don't do things that you intuitively would do?
Don't say I'm with a man, so I shouldn't do this. But when I'm living life by myself, I'm living it by my own boundaries, my own rules, my own.
What's
mine.
your life like, man? Wow. Never mind.
When I have a partner, I now have to consider someone else naturally. And so I'm going in my consideration of the other person. I'm sure I navigate a little bit differently. My home, I think when I'm single, you can call me any time of the day. I don't mind. If I'm partnered, you might be disturbing me. And so maybe I don't want you to call me at any time of the day.
Are you talking to me because I ring? So are you advertising?
No, I address it to
okay,
everyone.
cool, because I'd like to call without to call. Don't tell me I can't call.
I address it
I was here
or
first.
you just may not get hold of me because you're working and then you come home and you want to have your time with your partner. So I'm less available maybe, but it's not because, I've got a man and he says, or I've got to respect him. I respect him, of course. But
it's not because of the man, but the context it creates means that you may or may not be available more and more. What about you, Ramantha? Are you someone that respects to be politics? Would you change your behavior? Would you stop twerking because you have a man, or would you continue?
No, I would twerk for my man.
And my man better enjoy that. I'd like to twerk.
You know what I mean?
That
Why
was
are
like,
you even here? How did you make it here?
Where did you put that lecherous?
Because that's you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is you, David.
I'm not lecherous.
That's
I'm not lecherous.
We don't know what that word means because I
I'm
only
not
got 9 GCSEs. So what does lecherous mean? I don't know.
Just leery, pervy.
Oh. No, but you was like, because she started saying twerking, and he looked at both of you. He was like, yeah, twerking.
Also, I have
How to use that?
2 podcasts back. You were like, yeah, you did something
You
like
did
that.
do a
Remember?
face.
So
By the way, we stored these and we have them in a folder
have them in a
for
folder
our
for
gift
you.
section.
This is. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
This
God.
is racism.
Oh, God. Nigeria's not a race, okay?
This is racism. You're storing shit against me.
Yeah, that's the power of being the editors. We have a Darwood folder.
Damn it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Add that one then.
So I agree with Kimberly. There is a level of how do you see me? How do you view me? I think I try and figure that out at first. How do you see me? Do you see me as a respectable person? Do you love what you see? And are there signs that you would want to change it? Because I think her saying, women believe, women on the left believe that I'm a baddie, so partnership means that you support me in my baddiness. Fine.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting line. I'm not sure
That means
in practical
that
terms.
can go either way. That could be, I go to these sexual brunches. Do you remember the video?
Oh, God.
I go to these brunches where these men are oiled up or whatever, chocolate
Feeding
men or
strawberries
whatever.
and then
I
putting
go
their tongue
to
down women's
that,
throat.
and now I have a man, and I'm like, I'm definitely not changing that. I still want to see other men. Depends what your relationship is, but there is a level of that's a bit disrespectful, I would not do something that I think my partner sees as disrespectful unless it's something that you found me doing and I was confident in that. So I can stand by that and say, no, chocolate men is just pure fun for me. You get to go to the strip club, so I don't understand why that's any different. So there is a conversation that needs to be had, but I think when it comes to consideration, for me, it's about respect, but it's also subjective to your partner. So you can't just be a blanket statement of respect means not wearing a thong on a yacht and shaking my ass. That doesn't apply to everyone. Because some men are like, oh, please do that. Oh, please continue doing that. I love you for that. But we find that men go often for women that they feel like they can change. And that's where the problem comes in. If you feel like I aspire to Kimberly because I see her on an island in a bikini all the time on
Is this
Instagram.
literal? Sorry. Oh.
And now that I have her, it's a problem. Now that I have her, it's a problem. It's like, your ass is always out. Why? You you like me because of that. So
basically, that just speaks to a man's insecurities, because
but
what
I watch
attracted
for those
you,
things.
you know that other men are going to be attracted to.
Exactly.
But
True.
my whole thing, and that sometimes you're just walking down the street and you're looking at a woman, and then you realize the boyfriend's standing right there, and my whole thing, and I always want to tell the guys, boss, nobody wants a woman no one wants would look at. You don't want an ugly chick on your arm. You don't. You really don't. Like, you should take pride that your woman still attracts those looks. And if you're smart, you'll realize that she's still attracting looks from other men, and you'll be romantic so that she don't go and seek attention from elsewhere. You'll give her the attention she needs. We spoke about that earlier on. But
what is the and this is slightly loaded as a question, but in the sense that in a man's domain to protect and provide, if a woman's behavior then invites men to ogle look, where he feels like he has to protect the space around these women or whatever.
But women can't control men's behaviors towards them.
No. I'm saying, well, it's not about controlling. It's about knowing what the climate is. We just know what the chances of something happens. If we're walking together, and I don't even know what you would be doing that would create an increased chance of a man doing something that's justifiable. But something happens, you're out together and you're twerking, and then like this guy's looking, and then now we've got eye contact. The chances of that turning into
you and that guy.
Yeah, we now are at our potential odds. Is there any form of collective responsibility about just how we move because we don't want to move in a particular way? Is that a choice that a man gets to influence into a woman's behavior, or is that still a man overreaching in terms of inviting a woman in and being like, look, it's cool, I get that that's what you do and I met you doing, but when that happens, when I'm standing there, the context is now different, and it now could create something that I now have to deal with, and I'd rather not deal with it. Would that impact your behavior?
If it might impact you, if there's a situation where I feel like people are gonna try and dominate or intimidate you because they're trying to get to me, then of course that's a little, you need to assess the environment. If I go up to someone and twerk with them, knowing very well you're standing there and it becoming a problem, of course I won't do that. But I also feel like women are, in general, this is a blanket statement, but women are very policed in terms of what we create, the reactions we create for other men, based on either what we wear, how we dance, how we play hard to get, how we are too forward, how we talk too much, how we laugh at their jokes. I can't control most of those things. And if I'm having a good time and a song happened to come on that I twerk to, do I stop myself and say, "Ooh, this is not the environment for it," or do I stop that moment for myself and be like, I'd rather not do it?
Well, I think because what I liked in that you said is joint responsibility. I think we do have a joint responsibility, to answer your question, and to what you said, Darwood, about just being away from people who create drama or attract drama. So, for example, we can kind of always be aware, whether you're a woman or a man, you can be in a social situation and you're aware that someone's trying to test you. Someone's trying to test you as a woman by saying, "Oh, look at your man looking at me," or someone's trying to test you as a man, like, "I can get your woman," right? And I think if you're choosing smart, what my definition of smart, you're going to choose a partner who understands how to navigate those social situations and navigate them in a way that doesn't amplify them, that doesn't create drama from them. We know when to exit. We know when to step aside. We know, like, you just know how to navigate situations like that. So for me, it's less about would I change how I dress, or would I change the fact that I like to twerk in a thong bikini in public. And it's more, can I read the room? And do I know when maybe this isn't a safe environment for me and my man to be in right now?
That's true. And I think it is about antagonizing the situation more than anything, because you can't control it happening. But once it is happening, how do you, as you say, exit and say, "Nah, this is too tense. I'd rather go," or it's not worth it.
I think I feel what happens is that men maybe just communicate what I just communicated, but they instruct it, and then what that does, it creates a desire just to resist. You haven't spoken it through and talked about what should we do in this scenario?
It
Because
comes across as telling me what to do instead.
yeah, rather than like an invitation to like, actually, this is a space that we know if we are our full selves, it will create something that we actually don't have the desire or capacity to deal with. So what would you like to do in this scenario? Now, if somebody does that, I think rather than tell a woman not to do it, I think men have to make a choice to stop being in those scenarios or in that type of relationship where that can be possible. Like I think understanding that it's not about telling people what to do, it's about observing who they are and making a choice.
Yeah.
You don't need to then threaten them with it or tell them if they don't do this, then this is the consequence, because it just might be more than they're willing to deal with.
Do you think then that because it would then have to be an admission that I'm actually worried about being in a confrontational or dangerous situation because of you, so I'm not going to admit. I'd rather tell you don't do that than admit that, listen, this needs to be a conversation because it impacts me. That guy might have a gun, a knife, whatever. They might meet us, jump us outside.
Yeah.
It's putting us both in danger. So would that then mean that because by default you're admitting that someone might beat my ass up? And as my ego, you don't want to admit that
It's a
might
fear.
be dangerous
but
for both of us, but
and
actually, in
also
essence,
I had this
not
conversation
pairing alpha.
because there was a time when I was on holiday and I was with two women. We went out and it was like a nightclub. So we went to a nightclub. We were coming home. I think it was New Year's Eve, and so the experience was we got there. Then there was no way to get home. It was kind of like difficult to get out. So we started walking in a basically unknown country. We're walking across the highway. One person's drunk, and they're like going up to cars and like knocking on the door and like, poking their head in, and like it's just a bit wild. So I was trying to bring that person back in, and the other person was probably, I think they had no shoes on, so they were like walking quite slow. So we get to a place of like, I think it was a McDonald's, and then like I'm like, look, we'll get a car from here. I managed to get a car, an Uber, and then like I was like, look, I'll get everyone food to like let's sober ourselves up a little bit. And while I'm getting food, I lost sight of them. They went missing. And then I remember like getting the food, turning around, and not being able to see them. And I was like, you're in the Uber that I have called, and I don't know where you are now. So then I'm looking, and I'm trying to think. So I go to my phone. Like, why would you be somewhere that I can't see? So I walk around a little bit, and then I'm getting confronted by people who are like, you're walking in the drive-through lane, and you pushed in, like just yelling at me. And so I'm like, no, this is kind of mad. Like, where are they? So then I get to the other side and I kind of see them, or I think I speak to them on the phone, and I'm like, why would you leave a space that I could find you in when I'm doing all of this? And I just lost it. I was like, this is mad. Like, why would you create unsafety for me? Because I'm out here by myself walking with stuff for you, and you've moved from the space that we were in. And what it came down to when I got through all of the anger and disappointment, it was just like I genuinely felt like I was unsafe, and I put myself at the forefront of it to make sure everybody else got safe. And then when it came to my safety, there was no care and no consideration. And so I couldn't have that conversation in real time. And then when I had a version of that conversation, it was met with like kind of like flippancy, like this, like just like, oh, we're sorry then kind of thing, rather than like, oh shit, maybe something had gone wrong. And so it heightened it for me. But the reality is that I constantly have to think about the safety and security of everyone around me. And I constantly have to face the idea that it could go left. A lot of men now are in gym, training to do Muay Thai, MMA, knives, guns. This is not back in the day. It's not primary school where you have a fight and then you lose and you go home. You may not go home. So when I talk about the safety of us, and you talked about, that's why I was so interested in when you said it, like creating emotional safety. It's not to minimize you. It is to 100% make sure it's what I can control, because I am the primary defender. I love the idea you say physical safety as well, because I hope that if I have a bat, you might be able to swing or something and help me out. so I think, yeah, so I think it's really important that when we talk about it, sometimes men don't have the language, and that's their fault. That's nobody else's fault. For what really is the actual concern is that I know if I'm out, and those group of guys are gonna objectify you,
True.
I'm gonna have to stand there and be the barrier between him just grabbing you and being like, "Come give me your number, man. Oh, don't worry about him." Like, I have to be the one to stand there, and you are creating a context because we understand the climate rather than say it's not your fault. We just have to be responsible.
Yeah.
So I do get the essence of it, but what I think men have to do is figure out how to say that without just an instruction of you can't do that. Because I think that's a different conversation. Now you're just saying you're not allowed to express yourself in the way you are, and a woman won't understand it from that context without a conversation prior. Does that make sense?
I think what it comes across in conversation, what I've heard is you're giving these men a reason to disrespect me. Right? And that's the first layer, not even physical. We're not even talking about in a club physically doing that. But you on Instagram having all of these likes and men in your DMs, you're giving them reason to disrespect me. So that's the baseline layer of the communication around it. And again, because your disrespect amounts to, I'm going to have to fight someone. But you don't get to that point when your communication stops there. Yeah. It's like, these men are out here disrespecting me. And now, you never get to the point where it's like, it could be bad. It could get ugly. And granted, you yourself have to control your ego as well. If people are antagonizing you, just walk away. It's not, it goes both ways. You're absolutely right where, protect us, but also don't antagonize. You don't have to.
I think when we talked about why are men disengaging, the author lady on the Tucker Carlson show was making it out as if like the whole thing's a raw deal and there are benefits to men. It's statistically proven that men in marriage are more successful than not. So there are contexts in which it does benefit men. I think what we've lost is the ability to address certain things in a healthy way, which then puts it into context to both people to understand a woman's need and desire to be free and liberated and express herself in a particular way, but a man to also counter with actually what that may create, that for me, not even just for us, not even for you, what that may create for me and how for me it's important that we don't create those environments. But also I feel like one thing that men have to engage in more is the ability to walk away from unhealthy relationships. Like, if you're genuinely, that's your concern and you feel like this is something I don't want to deal with, rather than make the person the subject of that, you need to move and make a decision with moving yourself away from that situation. I think a lot of men don't do that. And that's where it comes into the ownership part, where it's like, I have dominion over you and I'm telling you, if you respect me, then you must do this. And I think once you get into the like ultimatum talk, or the like, if you do this, then this will happen. If you don't do this, then that will happen. You lose your power, your true power, which is actually, I am not going to live in a space where I constantly feel I'm in fear, and I'm going to explain that to you. And if you continue, I have to remove myself because my life is not going to be dictated by going to jail or being murdered by somebody on behalf of any scenario. So
I actually have a personal experience with it. So I'm not speaking from a high horse of I've never done this before. I have I don't want to say it's a blind spot, but in the beginning of my partnership, there was a situation where, so I actually wanted to give context first. So I have in South Africa, which is, it's not really just groping, catcalling. You could get killed, right? So the gender-based violence, femicide, we actually have a word for it. Femicide in South Africa is it's so real that rejecting a man, just any kind of antagonistic behavior could get you killed as a woman, right? So I have cognitively programmed myself to be in my masculine when I'm out. So hard, giving men like a hard time who's trying it. And because that has protected me and kept me on a level of safety where I feel like people wouldn't try half of the shit that they would with other women, because I will give you the look and I'll give you the, what the fuck are you doing? I'll do that. And so when I got into a relationship, I realized I needed to let go of that masculine energy around people being disrespectful towards me. Not letting go of it per se, but managing it better. Because that could have created such a violent situation, because I was disrespected at dinner once. And it was really just in the beginning of my partnership. So I was still in my masculine when I'm out. And this guy, who I didn't know very well, but kind of, I was the person who knew him at the table. And there was a moment of disrespect, and it just continued and continued. And I think he was pressing my buttons because he wanted a response, and he got the response. And so there were just men around the table. That then created a position for the other men around the table and my partner to be like, what the do we do? Do we step in? Do we, we don't know this guy. It could be violent. We don't know what's going to happen. So in that scenario, I was very much in my masculine, and I very much wanted to defend myself. And I felt like I didn't need anyone to come to my rescue in that moment. And so I understand when it comes to the dangers that those situations can create for not just your partners, just anyone in that space. Someone that is antagonistic, someone that's reacting to antagonistic behavior can create so much more danger for everyone around them. So I think the key thing is knowing when to exit, knowing when to calm down, knowing when to say, this is not worth it. And just walking away. In general, you should do it. But yeah, keeping yourself and your partner safe is a hard lesson that I had to learn. And I don't always get it right because I feel like instinctively I still try and protect myself. And it's not an easy thing to let go, because when I don't have my partner around, I have to put that on. And he's not going to be there every time. So it is a switch that you do, where you kind of go a little bit, okay, cool.
Something really interesting, and again, going through a period of really listening, especially to women as well, about what their experience was. One of the things that really astounded me is like what the cost of always being in your masculine is. And we talked about it here, actually. I think Leslie was the guest at the time. But when you do meet a woman in her feminine, it's a really different experience. And it is such a privilege almost for them. This is how it was relayed back to me, by the way. A privilege for them to actually be able to access it, because they have been able to be comfortable enough in their life that they don't have to be constantly on the offensive. And your experience of those women is so different. In fact, your light obviously turns on in such a way, it starts to attract people who are like, oh, what's happening over there? Like, this is a light. And then you very quickly realize that light and that calmness and that all the valuable things that we love about women is now being under threat. So I think a free, happy, confident, powerful woman is always something that is going to be a threat to those types of guys. Whatever it is, even if she's not twerking and she's just existing, they will feel that there's an entitlement to talk to her, to engage them, to present themselves in their life. And so that doesn't necessarily go away. So I do agree with you that you're not fully in control of what those men will do in those scenarios. But I think that's where I think you start to, when you're in relationships or when you're in spaces with somebody, you have to start, you naturally start shifting where you go and how you move anyway. Like, I like being outside, but like, do you want to be outside in the same way at the same time in those environments? I just less so. Maybe not never, but like less so than I normally would if I'm by myself. And I think the kind of energy that you create in a positive relationship does move you out of those spaces naturally, because you understand I have to be somebody else there. Like, the thing is, I'm probably big enough and strong enough to protect myself. I don't feel fear when I'm outside. I don't think, oh my God, I can't do this, or I shouldn't tell this person to stop doing what they're doing. I realize that though, but the chances of that becoming something really detrimental to me in one way or the other is just increased. I think my size creates a desire to antagonize further, like almost as in like alphaing each other. I think it creates a response. So if you're too short and small, you get completely like pushed aside, and then you feel you have to defend yourself. But also, if you are similar size, then it becomes this thing of like, oh, I can take him. So it just creates this constant thing, which is why men find it so important to arm themselves with like being strong enough, knowing how to fight, how to protect themselves, being willing to go to the nth degree. It's just kind of in the air. But like, I've grown up seeing what that can do. And like, I have to consciously tell myself I'm not engaging, because I know if I engage, I know I have to be prepared to take you off this planet to fully protect. If we're really going to say I'm going to protect you, I can't say I'm going to protect you until it gets a little bit difficult, and then I'm like, maybe not. I have to, once I've engaged. I've said to someone, don't talk to her that way, or why are you doing that, or that's disrespectful. Now I've engaged. I don't know what could happen next. They could respond in the most violent way, and I have to continue my protection. So I do think it's like a thing of knowing what your boundaries are. But once you signed up, you signed up. So energetically, you do just go different places, and you do different things that befit where you are in your life right now. It's not as desirable to be in those spaces because no one's backing down, like in this, especially at these times.